Secretary's shoulder strap slipped to reveal a touch of fragrant shoulder. Boss instantly looked straight in the eye. She stretched out her 2 index fingers and quickly struck the keyboard, typing in a very strange way. But the speed is far beyond the norm. Annie is a girl from the countryside. She applied for a job as the boss's secretary not long ago, but the competitors were all very flamboyant. Annie instantly backed out. But it was her turn next. The boss asked her where she came from. She grew up in the countryside, and her behavior was so rustic that she couldn't be bothered. The boss reluctantly leaves and goes straight to call the next one. But soon he looks back in wonder and sees Anne yanking out a typewriter and grabbing a document to compare it to and start typing rapidly. The boss was dumbfounded by the rapidity of her fingers. Her hair tie suddenly came undone and her shoulder strap slipped off. In just 30 seconds, Annie had typed the exact same document with 209 characters. The boss was stunned and speechless. But Annie pulled back the shoulder strap and the result was predictable. The rural girl succeeded in her interview. While chatting with a friend, the boss suddenly mentioned that the new secretary was a bit rustic but a very fast typist. My friend said that there was a typing competition and that he should try out for it, with cash prizes for the top 3 finishers. The boss was impressed and signed Annie up. When she arrived at the contest site, she followed the other's example and set her hands in position. But when she saw the woman next to her in action, she used her own tools to fix the typewriter, and it was actually possible. The next whistle blew and the scene was filled with loud cheers. Everyone was staring at the manuscript with their hands rapidly hitting the keyboard and turning the page after typing a line sharply. As a first-time contestant, Annie looked extremely flustered. Not only her typing speed lagged behind, but even the paper change was very unskillful. She couldn't fit it in several times and predictably, she was eliminated in the first round. Having just cried, Annie was now downcast. The boss rushed to reassure her that she was actually very capable but just needed some preparation and encouraged her to sign up again, this time with her own training. Annie followed her boss home and used the living room as a training room. The first thing she had to do was to get rid of her biggest weakness, which was that she couldn't use only her 2 index fingers. For this reason, Nick bought a child's typewriter with a keyboard that was thoughtfully divided into 5 colors for each of the 5 fingers on each hand. At first, Annie had a hard time adapting, as if her fingers didn't work. Nick came up with the idea of painting Annie's fingernails the same color as the keyboard, which made it much easier to use. Annie trained hard day and night, even falling asleep from exhaustion, and Nick was kind enough to massage her fingers. After a few days of close contact, the two of them unconsciously developed strange feelings in their hearts. Soon the second competition came and the exciting whistle blew and Anne began to play the keyboard with confidence instead of trepidation. She changed the white paper and finally passed the first place and advanced to the city competition. Nick was so excited that he hugged Anne tightly in front of the audience and spun around in circles. Nick continued to accompany Annie to the competition, but this time the situation was very tough. She represented the whole district, and the other contestants were all first-place winners from other districts. As the whistle blew for the final round, the two of them stared at their scripts and tapped their fingers on the keyboards with equal speed. The referee announced the results of the competition and they both typed 495 characters, and was relieved but worried. Lisa was furious that she was tied with a nobody. The organizers announced that they were going to have an overtime session and that the typing time would be extended from 1 minute to 5 minutes. Anne is completely flustered, stressed out and out of sorts, even thinking of throwing the game. Her boss, Nick, gets serious and tells her the secret to winning.
Les 500 frappes à la minute de le prince Ringuet, je les ai dépassées depuis belle lurette en entraînement.
The worried look on her face changed to one of confidence, as her opponent, who was once out of her reach, was now no longer a challenge for Annie. Looking at her opponent with confidence, Lisa became even more furious. She would not allow anyone to shake her position, and raised her arms and both men stared at each other as if they were going to fight next. But no one realized that Annie's strongest supporter was now quietly leaving the ring, because Nick had lied to Annie that her best training score was only 499 characters, not even breaking Lisa's record of 505 characters. The lie was just to encourage her, and Nick seemed to have predicted the consequences. Suddenly there was a loud cheer from behind him and the winner was crowned. Nick nervously returned to the scene only to see Annie standing on the winner's podium. Nick's heart dropped, and with tears in his eyes, he tried to tell Annie that she'd finally made it, but he was pushed to the back by the crowd, and before he knew it, the two of them were getting farther and farther away from each other. Annie was a hit, and with her first place, she was chosen as a national typing candidate, and even her nail polish typing method made the front page of a poster. Pink typewriters paid top dollar for her endorsement, and the media clamored to interview her about her success, and was surrounded by fans and attracted the attention of a rich young man who was also the president of Pink Typewriters. The relationship between the two quickly grew closer and the value of the Pink brand skyrocketed, and intensifies her typing training in preparation for an international competition to represent France. But this time, it's going to be difficult. Each contestant is a national champion, selected from a long list of countries. The most recognized competitor is Mary from the United States, who holds the world record for the average of 525 characters per minute and is the world champion of the international typing contest for the 3rd consecutive year, and is under great pressure to improve her speed and is trained by a coach chosen by Pink. But it's a rocky start as she's not used to the new typewriter, and Annie's frequent misplaced presses are met with nothing but a serious do-over. It's as if everything has changed from the old days when the boss was so sweet and companionable. But Annie doesn't realize that President Pick is only with him to promote his typewriters and increase the company's market value. And Nick, who had been with her day and night, was only now realizing the love in his heart. But he didn't know that Annie's biggest problem was coming up.